what is up, guys? MMA Guru here, and today I'm gonna be discussing some major fights that got announced last week. I'm a bit late on this, but I was busy. I have a stupid ass wagey job, so give me a break, okay? So the first fight I'm gonna talk about on the greatest website ever, Reddit.com, is Bilal Muhammad. What the fuck? I'm sorry, I just woke up. Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della. Um, I think people are going to find out how overrated Jack Della Maddalena was. I still think Shavkat Shavkat is the hardest challenge for Bilal Muhammad. I will legitimately talk about why Jack does have a chance real quick. Jack is the best boxer in welterweight history, probably. He has insane knockout power, very heavy-handed, great boxing, great in the pocket, great on the outside. I would have loved to see him face Leon Edwards because I think he would have pieced up Leon. But his biggest weakness, if you watch the Gilbert Burns fight or any fight he's been in, like he'll eventually get up, but he can be wrestled pretty easily. And I don't like that for fighting Bilal Muhammad. I think he's just going to get manhandled in this fight. I think if Gilbert Burns manhandled you, that's going to be a problem. And Bilal Muhammad's just a better fighter than Gilbert Burns, so he won't get caught by some bullshit fucking knee hook uppercut bullshit. I do think it is possible. It is a literal puncher's chance for JDM. I think he has to land a really good shot and finish him to win this fight. I don't see that happening. Bilal's too hard to hit. I think Bilal's boxing is good enough to compete with JDM, and then he just needs to set up the takedowns, and then this fight's going to be very boring. I'm predicting it now. I think Bilal's just going to sit on top of him for fucking 5 rounds and win a 50-45, 49-46 or something. Maybe one round Bilal gets cracked, and that's it. Sorry, Bully MMA will continue. I want to see Bilal versus Duplessis in the future, but there's a lot of up and comers in middleweight that are going to be getting title shots soon. So yeah. The next fight I want to talk about is I guess I only did 2 minutes on that. I guess that's all I really have to say is Bilal's just such a good fucking wrestler that I don't see a world where JDM wins it. If I'm betting the house on Bilal in this fight, if I'm going to be honest with you, this is the worst matchup for Jack Della Maddalena in the entire division. I think he does pretty well or beats pretty much everyone else, and then struggles against the top 3 or 4 guys who I think, this might be an unpopular opinion, I think the 4 best welterweights right now are I think at the very top it's Bilal. I think the second best welterweight, don't care what you have to say, is Shavkat. I think the third best is Sean Brady. And I think the fourth best is Ian Machado Gary. And I think Jack Della Maddalena barely fits in that fifth position. Now, you could say Buckley above JDM as well. I think Buckley's also better than JDM. JDM's good, man, but I think people are overhyping him. I think boxing is king people, especially. Some of the most annoying MMA fans are the boxing is king people. And it's yeah, part of the reason why I like Poirier, or I'll use Topuria as an even greater example, why Topuria's boxing is so good, is because he has insane wrestling. He's a great jiu-jitsu artist. Hey, JDM I think has a submission in there, but I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a Bilal believer, at least until he hits 37, 38 years old. Which is soon. We won't see too long of a Bilal title run, but we'll see a title run. Alright, now I'll talk about this fight. Now, I saw this as a possible option for the future. To quickly address the elephant in the room, yes, Movsar Anilov is on a massive win streak and is undefeated. However, he has not had any. I can't remember a single spectacular win. He's had split decisions. He's had close decisions. He's had boring fights. I'm sorry, unless if you're beating the number one guy in the in the division and there's no one else, I don't think you should get a title shot off of a split decision. People were acting like Strickland's title shot was so undeserved, but then the Enilev, he deserves a title shot. It's like, I don't know. I think Enilev is worse than both of these guys. I know he beat short notice Diego Lopez, but like Diego Lopez has gotten so much better. And um, I think in a 5 rounder, Diego Lopez could finish him. Mavzar just has that fighting style that just, like, if you face the second Mavzar faces anybody with takedown defense, like actual good takedown defense, not somebody that's just gonna try to wrestle him too, like Aljamain Sterling, he's gonna get fucking destroyed. His boxing's overrated. He's overrated. Now on to the title fight that was actually fucking put in. Diego Lopez is very good, and I think this is a very winnable fight for Volkanovski. I think this is a winnable fight for both of them. Volk is up there in age. Diego Lopez has a lot of power. Diego Lopez is very well rounded. Volk is very well rounded, but I think Volk has that veteran shipped him, and I think he's just more well-rounded and a better kickboxer. He just doesn't have that power, and I think just like the other fight. I think that's the only way Diego Lopez wins is through a KO or maybe a few good rounds where he drops Volk. But I see this being like 48, 47, 49, 46 for Volk. I'm very excited for this fight. I think it's going to be an absolute fucking barn burner. Both these guys like to push the pace. Both these guys like to throw a bunch of strikes. Both these guys, well, more Diego Lopez than Volkanovski. Diego Lopez likes to try to take your head off. Um, I think Diego Lopez's performances of recent have been really impressive. People bring up the Danny Ige performance, but he had to like change his weight like multiple times, and he had to change his opponent 10 hours beforehand. Like, he wasn't watching. He was training to face Brian Ortega, who's a completely different fighter, and Dan Ige is also overrated as shit. Oh my god, I don't even want to talk about. Dan Ige might have like the most fake fucking fan base in all of MMA. One of the most fucking MMA hipster fan bases ever. I think Volk gets this done though. I think Volk could win. What I'm hoping as a huge Volkanovski fan is Volk wins this fight, then beats Mavzar, takes his O, and then retires. That's what I want to see. I want to see him take this fight, defend his belt one more time, then retire. I don't know if he'll do that. He loved fight too much, but yeah. Alright. Next, I want to bring up the card that was announced with it. Some of these fights were previously announced, but I think a lot of these were announced then. I will talk more in detail about the Michael Chandler fight. Oh, there's one other fight I wanted to talk about. Hold on, let me add that to the list. Alright. We're having a debut with Patricio Pitbull. If you haven't watched him, go watch him. He's a really exciting fighter. He's going to bring excitement to the featherweight division. And honestly, that's what the featherweight division needs. Volk's getting old. He was an exciting fighter. Outside of like the really top guys that have been there for a while, there's a lot of boring fighters that are entering featherweight, or fighters that just aren't able to beat the boring fighters that may be exciting, like Arnold Allen. But we'll see with Arnold Allen. He could still, make a run. And I think he could beat Mavzar in a rematch. I think he beat Mavzar in that first fight, so Mavzar has a very faulty undefeated. Like, I know I'm going on another Mavzar rant, but he has a very faulty undefeated record. Like, he barely beat a bunch of people. There's a lot of barelys. There's no finishes, and that's a little bit scary. To win that much with no finishes means you're going to face somebody that you'll need to finish, and you won't be able to. Anyways, Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. That should be an absolute banger. I don't know if I said this before on here, but I have said to other people that I think Carlos Prates' next test needs to be against Jeff Neal, because Jeff Neal is kind of a perfect welterweight test to be like, okay, are you actually a good striker and wrestler, or are you a good wrestler? He has pretty good takedown defense and pretty good striking. It's just he doesn't have great takedown defense or great striking, and he's not the best wrestler. So that's why Jeff Neal's ranked 10 in welterweight, but welterweight's stacked. I do predict Carlos Pratos to win that by KO, but we could see an upset and a fraud check by Jeff Neal. Next, Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. It's a winnable fight for Dominic Reyes. Don't have too much to say if I'm going to be honest with you. Krylov has no banner, so epic. Next, we have Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Should be a banger. I'm predicting Sean Woodson to win this. Like I said, Dan Ige's overrated. It's because he's a badass does not mean that he's good at MMA. Or that he's that good at MMA. He's clearly good. Oh, but he won one round against Diego Lopez. He won one round where Diego Lopez was kind of cruising at the end of that fight. But he won one round. Or may have won one round. I don't even know if he even won that round. He looked really good at the end of a fight. That's all I know. So that means he's really good. Because he looked really good at the end of one fight. After losing. Oh, we got Jan Zhaolian versus Verna. Who cares? And then Jim Miller versus Chase Super should be an easy Chase Super victory. On to the next. I want to talk about this Paddy Pimblett Michael Chandler fight. I think Michael Chandler. Like the thing is like every Michael Chandler fight. Maybe not every. Like when he fights like an Oliveira or something. You don't say this, but for pretty much every Michael Chandler fight, even the Oliveira fight the first time around. People were giving it to Mike because if you look at it on paper, how does this guy ever lose? How does this guy ever fucking lose? He has everything. He's a fucking phenomenal wrestler. He's strong. He's fast. Underrated gas tank. He has great punches. He hits super fucking hard. He has great combinations. Amazing technique. Great submission defense. Pretty great fighter. And he's just the dumbest motherfucker to ever enter the octagon. He might have the worst fight IQ for like a ranked UFC fighter of all time. He's a dumbass. He does stupid shit. He's very bad at adjusting. I think what makes champions in the UFC is your ability to adjust. Now, Paddy Pimblett's not a perfect fighter either. But I think Paddy's a smarter fighter, and I think Paddy understands what he needs to do to win better than Michael Chandler. Paddy, I feel like, is somebody that's like, oh, I know what I... Like, I think I could see Paddy easily submitting Michael Chandler. I could see Michael Chandler rocking Paddy, then going for a takedown, and then getting guillotined. Like... Paddy Pimblett, I think, is both somehow simultaneously like an overrated fighter to casual fans and an underrated fighter to hardcore fans. Like, that chin is amazing on him. He can take damage for days. That chin is amazing. His jiu-jitsu's like one of the best in the division. We'll see. I mean, it's not as good as like Oliveira for now. We'll see how good it improves, but... And he does hit decently hard. I could see him knocking out Chandler too, but I think Chandler's going to outstrike him. I'm going to pick Paddy to win, mostly because I'm a fan of his, but I also just think Paddy's going to like... Paddy's younger and he's a smarter fighter. And I think even though Michael Chandler has everything on paper so fucking what, he hasn't proved that he can put everything together in the UFC. And even though he's an entertaining fighter and has all these fight of the night bonuses, how many of those fights did he actually fucking win? And one of his only wins was against Tony Ferguson, who has terrible fucking defense. Which I guess so does Paddy, but Paddy hasn't been through all the wars that Tony Ferguson has been through. And that shot was just like perfect. I see... I am leaning more towards Michael Chandler for this fight, but I could easily see a Paddy victory. I could easily see it. I'm leaning more towards Chandler, and I'm going to end this with saying that, yeah, I think Chandler's going to win, but... Not really. Actually, no, I think Paddy's going to win. I'm never betting on Michael Chandler again. That motherfucker is getting older. All that posturing to try to get that McGregor fight never fucking came to fruition because because Conor McGregor liked assaulting women and doing drugs too much to get back into the octagon. So R.I.P. him. I think Paddy's ironically a smarter fighter, even though Paddy doesn't exactly have the highest fucking fight IQ ever. I think Michael Chandler's gonna, if he keeps it on the feet, he'll win this fight 10 times out of 10, but he won't. So then Paddy's gonna submit him. The end. Next, we got Edwards versus Brady. Now, I've said this earlier in the video, and I still believe this. Brady is the dark horse of this division. And honestly, I could see him maybe jumping past Shavkat for a title shot if he beats Leon Edwards. Now, he is one of those boring ass fighters that no one gives a fuck about, but I don't know, man. He's a great fighter. He has great boxing. He's only lost to Bilal Muhammad. And I think he has a good matchup / winning matchup against pretty much everyone else in the division. I think he's a nightmare for Leon. I think it's like if he's like if Leon faced an even younger Kamaru Usman. And I think there's just a formula to beating Leon now. I don't know. I still think Leon could win, and I will be rooting for Leon in this fight. But I think if Leon fought it like he did in his last fight and fights way too patient, I think the pressure Brady brings is going to be too much for him. And I don't see him getting a highlight KO. Sorry. I think this is the worst matchup for him in the division, other than maybe JDM and Bilal. I think he beats a lot of people in the division, just not those three. I also think he loses Shavkat. I don't know. I think Leon's really good. Welterweight's just so stacked right now. It's kind of hard to like predict any of these fights. And even though I am predicting Sean Brady to win, I could see Leon just landing a fucking like flush head kick and ending his lights. But Brady, like Bilal, has just been getting better and better and better. And he's just becoming more and more well-rounded. We saw that in his fight with Gilbert Burns. I do consider him Diet Bilal still, and I do think if he faces Bilal, he'll lose. But I think if like Shavkat dethrones Bilal, I could see him beating Shavkat. That's the point I'm getting at. Styles make fights. That's all I really got to say. I don't know. I rambled on for too long.